arrived at 7:30, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for Wednesday, December 6th to order. Can I have roll call, please?
Campbell.
Present.
Morgan. Norntop.
Here.
Path.
Here.
Zizak. Ware.
Here.
And Sula.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum. However, our chairman was unable to be with us this evening, and in light of that, first order of business will be that we'll need to nominate and appoint Chairman Pro Tem to fill his spot. Do we have any nominations, please?
I nominate Mr. Nordentoff.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Ware. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Appreciate your support, everyone. The best we can tonight. Okay, first order of business. Let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next agenda item this evening is the approval of the PZB's November 1st meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Does anyone have any questions, comments, edits? If not, a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve as submitted.
So motion by Mr. Paff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Campbell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is a request for a right-of-way vacation by SKE 2019 LLC for 1500 North Delaney Road. Quick staff report, please.
The applicant, SKE 2019 LLC, is seeking the vacation of a 60-foot wide right-of-way on the northern portion of property located at 1500 North Delaney Avenue. The subject property is zoned I-2 General Industrial. The right-of-way was dedicated when the property was annexed into the village in 1999 with the intent to provide for possible future extension of a roadway to service properties to the west. A current development plan for the property uses the right-of-way as the northern access point, as this location was deemed the safest location as it is directly opposite the entrance to Total Paving on the east side of Delaney Road. None of the village department heads saw benefit to maintaining the right-of-way and have no objection to the vacation. As industrial zone property, the subject right-of-way will be vacated to the owner for a vacation fee equal to 50% of the appraised value. I don't believe the applicant is here, but staff can probably answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. I'll start to my right. Leanna, do you have any questions or comments regarding the request?
Not at this time.
Great, thank you. To my left, anyone?
The only thing I had, I take it they don't need any access to the back property anymore? Is it all owned by the same company now?
So the property to the, what would be the west of this site is owned by Peterson Excavating. It's the concrete crushing plant, for those of you who are familiar with that site. It's a single owner there. They've amassed several of those parcels along Barbary Road. In looking at the general traffic circulation pattern, since Total Paving has purchased the property on the east side of Delaney Road and built their headquarters there, it really doesn't make sense to have another street intersection at this location. If we did desire any kind of internal circulation or traffic circulation from Barbary, which is a dead end right now, it would make more sense to tie it into St. Paul to the north and west, instead of tying it back out to Delaney. So that's kind of the development patterns over the last 25 years have changed direction a little bit as to how this street could go through or should go through, and that's kind of why, you know, staff felt it was not really necessary to have this little stub any longer.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add, any comments? Okay, seeing none, then perhaps it's time for a motion that would be in the form of a recommendation to the village board. Edwin?
I move to forward a favorable recommendation on the petition of SKE 2019 LLC to vacate the 60-foot right-of-way located directly north of their property, located at 1500 North Delaney.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Paft. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ware. Any further discussion? Could I have roll call, please?
Campbell,
Aye.
Nordentoff,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
and Ware.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is a minor sign exceptions for Image 360 South Elgin at the address 222 South Greenleaf Street. Do you have a staff report on this?
Sure. As you said, Image 360 South Elgin, on behalf of DMV Property Management, proposes to remove an existing legal nonconforming multi-tenant sign and build a new monument sign for an office building located at 222 South Greenleaf Street. In order to do so, the applicant requests 3 minor sign exceptions. The first, to install 7 tenant panels on the sign in lieu of the maximum 4 tenant panels permitted. And I should point out the existing sign currently has 10 tenant panels. 2, to allow 4-inch letter height in lieu of the 6-inch minimum letter height required. And 3, to place the sign 6 feet back from the back of curb and 8 feet from the public right-of-way in lieu of the 10-foot minimum setback required. The proposed sign will be an internally illuminated screened box sign with raised letters on an opaque background that only highlights the text. The main sign cabinet will represent the business address divided into 2 parts, 222 South on top and Greenleaf Street oriented at a 90-degree angle on the side of the sign structure. Staff suggests that the sign represent the complete address, 222 South Greenleaf Street, on the top cabinet while adding the address number 222 horizontally in 3 lines on the side of the sign. Staff also suggests that the entire business address be reflected in 6-inch letter height. The proposed sign will be located within the principal parking lot landscaped island at the entrance to the site, quite close to the location of the existing nonconforming sign. The PZB has final decision-making authority in this matter and can grant minor sign exceptions if they find that the number, size, design, and placement of the proposed sign are consistent with the stated purpose of the sign regulations. The applicant is in attendance and will be able to answer any questions the PZB may have.
Thank you very much. I think starting off, maybe I'll offer you the opportunity, sir, if you would like to approach one of the microphones. Sure. State your name and affiliation for the record. If you have anything else that you wish to add to what the staff introduced to us, we'd like to do that at this moment before we proceed to ask questions and have deliberation among
Yes.
the members.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Rafael Plazola, and I'm with Image 360 in South Elgin. In trying to stay within the requirements for the sign dimensions and height and square footage, my client insisted on having the 10 tenant spaces as they currently do, but this would not, it was just not going to be possible with the required regulations or current regulations. So then we spoke with Atrian, I believe, and she mentioned about the minor sign exception. So my client has agreed that if we can go with 7, they have currently 10 leasable spaces. I think 3 of them are occupied, or 4 of them are occupied. And their wish is to try and have something that's a little bit more modern, more appealing visually to attract professional medical businesses. And we worked with Atrian to meet the requirements, and this is the best that we could do to try to meet all the requirements, and then considering the existing sign that's already there too.
Okay. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and start to my left. If there's anyone down at this end that would like to begin, have any questions or any comments?
Well, for me, I think it's definitely a step up from what's there. If we were to deny it and they possibly stay with the same sign, we have nothing better at all. As far as the suggestion about putting the whole address across the top, it seems to me they'd have to redesign the sign in order to make that work well with this. They've put the green swooped part on the left-hand side of the sign to put Greenleaf Street on. Another option that I thought would be just to leave it at 222S or just 222 at the top. Most of the businesses on the street just put the number without any designation as far as it's south or even if it's Greenleaf Street. Most of the signs do not have Greenleaf Street on them. There's a few, but generally it's written smaller underneath. So if they didn't want to modify the whole sign, that would be my suggestion. I think it's a much nicer looking sign than was there. I did not see any issues with the setbacks. There was plenty of line of sight in both directions. I come out of the driveway, you can see as far as you want either direction without any interference. So I didn't see any problem with line of sight either. So the setbacks to me work fine as is. As far as the number of panels, at least they've made some kind of compromise here. The letters are bigger than what they would be on the sign that's there now, which is an improvement, and I already thought those were fairly easy to read, so I don't have a problem with the letter height either.
So if I, just to clarify, make sure I understand, you're okay as submitted in terms of the design concept?
I don't like the south spelled out completely. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. Most of the businesses did not do that, although I did see one who had south written under the number. But to me, if you're on the street, you pretty much know what street you're on. I wouldn't be confused by the fact that south was there. At least I don't believe I would be confused because I turned onto Greenleaf Street and I know I'm on Greenleaf Street.
Would you want those letters to be 6 inches, though, for the numbers? It seems like it fit.
I thought they were 6 inches. The numbers are.
Oh, I see, the south is 4.
Yeah, the south, the last part of south is 4 inches, and I think it could just be 222S, or we just leave that off completely. Most businesses that I've seen in the village do not even have the designation as far as if it's south or north or east or west. So,
Yeah, if I recall the genesis and the evolution of all this, I think a lot of the issues that we always had was just way too much information packed on these signs, you know, oftentimes in traffic areas where, you know, we have greater speeds, and so you're asking people to drive by at 40 or 50 miles an hour and try to read a tenant panel with, you know, 12 tenants on it. It was more important to identify the address and the location as a destination, not be so concerned about individual tenants, but make it easy for people to identify an address,
yes.
right? So to me, the most significant thing is the 222, from my perspective. So I want to know where 222 is. I would even exchange, you know, Tradeaway South for even a bigger 222, so that
Right.
people understood that is 222, I'm in the right block, you know? But that's just my opinion.
I
Overall,
agree.
I do think it's an upgrade. I do agree with that. So I'm appreciative of everybody who's willing to invest and upgrade the signs.
Sorry, one more point was the suggestion of putting the number on the side of the sign, although I don't think it's a horrible idea, I don't think it does much for the people trying to find the building because you're coming from a distance either direction. You can see the 222 on the top of the sign as it is now. if you had 222 on the side of the sign, you wouldn't see that until you were passing it by. So it's too late, pretty much.
Tracy?
I just wanted to point out that they need both the top and the left side to have the identifier of the address in some manner, because the requirement is that 40% of the sign area has to be like the business park name. This one doesn't have a business park name. It's not identified as Greenleaf Center or anything like that. So it's really just identified by the address, and I think that's one of the reasons why they had 222 South Greenleaf Street, the full name. They still might be able to fit 222 South and then Greenleaf underneath, on top, but I don't really want to get away from having anything along that left side, because if we do take away any sort of identifier as to the business park name, then we drop below that 40% threshold, and then they need another minor, and I think it's a minor sign exception for that. It might actually be a special use, I can't remember, I have to look.
So is this an issue really where space is allocated? So if we're trying to get 40%, but create it all at the top, it's squeezing all their tenant panels down. Am I correct on that? Am
So
I
think
missing
they're
something?
I think they're including the side.
Yeah.
Greenleaf is part of the 40%.
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
Oh, I see. So were you talking about putting the address in where it says Greenleaf, or on the side of the sign?
So on Greenleaf, where's Greenleaf Street? It's on the sign right there?
Yeah.
Still count
Oh.
toward the 40%.
I see. Okay, I thought you were talking about on the side of the sign.
No.
I did not understand that. Got it.
We do have a south road in town, and so we were a little concerned by just having south that it would be a little bit confusing. I suppose if you wanted to, you could just increase the 222 on top and the 222 on the side. You would still have your 40%. I don't know if that fits what the applicant really wanted, because I think they did want maybe to have Greenleaf Street identified there, but I'm sure the applicant can speak toward that.
Yeah, they could easily center that in that area at the top of the sign with, even if Greenleaf Street had to be smaller underneath 222. But I would prefer to have the 222 as big as possible.
Second line.
Seemed to kind of counter what we're trying to accomplish with making them put that big a portion on the sign identifying a complex that doesn't even have a name, because they could have put bigger tenant panels if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, the only thing I'd point out is, to the extent they're really asking for those three exceptions, sometimes you don't want to fine tune it beyond, what the belief is. So if you're satisfied that they can have the number of tenant panels, I guess it was item number 1, 2, that allow the heights to be less than 6 inches, and 3, as far as the setback, I suppose that's really kind of a binary yes or no, right? So if those things fit, I think maybe if there's a consensus to approve that, then the work is done.
Okay.
In terms of the aesthetics, that's a little tougher, to be reviewing.
Right. The thing I was thinking about is when you wrote out 222S Greenleaf Street and wanted that all in 6 inches, does that fit in that tan-colored area that the 222 South is in?
It does not.
It doesn't. That's what I thought. At least not if the letters were that big. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple simple comments. A quick response to not having possibly the word south or mentioned as a driver. Sometimes I don't know whether it's south or north. And I don't know if there's a north Greenleaf or not, but when I'm driving, I'm like, okay, am I south or north? So for someone like me, it is important to have that's one common personal. And if I understand correctly, there are 10 tenant spaces,
Correct.
right? But there are only 7 panels.
Correct.
I don't know, what happens if you rent out the 10 spaces?
That business would not be able to put their name up there. And
So I just want to point out that we have a limit on the number of tenant panels that can be put on a multi-tenant sign. The limit is 4 by right. They can go up to 8 via the minor sign exception. Anything above 8 is a special use permit. So they were trying to avoid the special use permit, which is a public hearing process, 3 months. That's why they originally started at 8. They also had issues with trying to get that 40% to 60%, and also trying to make the tenant name as big as possible and try to get as close to that 6-inch letter height as possible. And that's one of the reasons that they reduced the tenant panels from 8 to 7, which again can be processed via the minor sign exception.
if I may add, the 6-inch height requirement, that's as small as we can go with the current code. That made it almost impossible to have 4 tenant spaces in there and have their complete name with a 6-inch requirement. Even when we reduced it at 4 inches, for example, Women's Health Partners, there was no way to fit it completely, even at 4-inch letters. So that's why we had to modify, make some changes to meet those requirements. And Autran was very helpful in working with us and trying to come up with a solution.
And that's not unusual when you have a multi-tenant sign. I think Autran was trying to work with them to establish as many of the minor sign exceptions that they could process at one time, and hopefully work with this sign. And that 4-inch letter height was chosen because that's basically what they can do based upon these 7 tenant panels and the current business names that they have out there. But let's just say they get a tenant in there that has a name that's a lot longer than Women's Health Partners. Then they'll have to come back in and request potentially smaller letter heights or combine some of the tenant panels if possible. So it doesn't preclude the potential for future needs should, you know, a business name be extremely long.
Just curious. Do you have to have the same name on both sides of the panel, of the sign?
No, you don't.
So can you put 7 here and 3 on the other side? and
Yes, you
have
can.
10 people, 10 tenants on there? So you pretty much covered everybody at that point in time.
Yeah, although people are coming from one direction or the other, and they're only going to see what.
Or 5 and 5?
Does that get done? Wasn't that done in that business park? Is that where you're at? No, not where Brian's at. There's a law office in there, though. Oh, no, this was in Saratoga Square where they did that. There are different names on each side of that sign. Yeah. Okay. So it could be done.
Yes.
Even if you had 7 on each side, they could be some different ones.
It can be done, but a lot of businesses don't like that option, so.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd want.
But I can also tell you that even though the building is set up for 10 units, I know that one of them has 3 of the units, one entity has a lease for 3 of the units within the building. So even though it's set up for 10 suites, a lot of them can be or are combined. So there may not be 10 individual users, even though the whole building is leased out.
Right, correct.
Correct, it's true.
I have a question for Liliana. Do you need the whole south spelled out?
Just the S would suffice for me.
That's what I thought. And then it definitely isn't confused with There's no S Street in the Gurney, is there?
And the breakpoint for north and south is Washington Street.
Yeah.
So, you're 2 blocks away from that, so it does get a little, you are close to that, whether you're on the north side or the south side of Washington Street.
I agree. The more addresses and the more information about where I'm at helps me a lot in judging how close I'm getting to where I'm going. Especially since all these signs have addresses on them now, it's much easier to tell where you're at and if you're getting close to the address you're looking for.
Okay, so try to summarize where I think we are based on the conversations that have taken place up to now. We have the 3 different exceptions that are being asked for and requested. So number 1, increasing the sign from 4 to 7, doesn't appear that anyone has any issues with that, unless I miss anything. Number 2, allowing the letter height to be less than the 6-inch requirement. I'm not certain that anyone has any particular issue with that, unless I'm missing something.
Does there need to be a minimum stated in the motion? Because it says that we're allowing it to be less than 6 inches.
Usually, we either tie it to the testimony, the plans that are provided, or you put that in the motion, so.
Okay, got it.
And number 3, it stated that will allow a freestanding multi-tenant sign to be set back 6 feet from the back curb and 8 feet from the property line. Didn't appear that anyone had any issues with the location of the sign. So it seems to be, again, a little bit of the question, if we attach any other kind of condition relative to the way they've managed the address on this. And so I don't know if there was consensus on this, and I don't know if this is something that we just, offer a friendly suggestion and ask whether it can be accommodated. But I want to make sure that we're clear. It seems as though, correct me if I'm wrong, that we were interested in moving away from having south spelled out on the sign. So I don't know if S period is a option, or if we want south removed, or if we want south incorporated into the side where it says Greenleaf Street and just leave 222. And I don't know where I stand on this as to where I want to start negotiating or whatever, but sometimes I don't know if that's, anybody, did I miss something on this?
Well, no, but I think the point is, in terms of drilling down on the content, probably avoid that, only to the extent that it meets the ordinance requirements, that we want to have an address there. So, address or name of the complex. So, I don't know, certainly the board does not have to, it's made suggestions, but in terms of the actual content of that top line, we know that it must include the street address, the 222, and either S or south, but I think that's, that's not part of the request, asking for relief from the requirement of stating the address.
Yeah.
And my client would be okay with having 222 south, period, instead of having the whole word.
Do we need to put that in the motion then, or not? We could just use that as a suggestion, or?
You can approve it you can add that as a condition if you wanted to.
And if, one of the requests is for reduced letter size, you could allow for the reduced letter size on the tenant panels, but they are also proposing reduced letter sizes on the addresses and the street name. Could bifurcate that and, not provide the relief for the address, which would require south be more pronounced or the Greenleaf.
Well, they
What-
can't do the green leaf bigger in 6-inch letters and leave it where it's at.
If they drop the ST, they may be able to
Possibly.
possibly bump that up to 6-inch letters on
would just state at least 6 inches, because now that you're dropping south from there, you could probably make that even more pronounced if you wanted to, that 222 south.
Yeah, it would probably look better if it was bigger, since getting rid of the spelled out south.
So you'll have to modify, if you want to go that direction, that item number 2, that the reduction in height less than 6 requirement would pertain only to the panels with a minimum of 4 inches.
It's in the draft
Yeah,
motion also.
Oh, is it?
there's that optional, but, I mean, there's additional stuff.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, you would
additional
have to
stuff in there.
figure out the amendment to that to address the, how you wanted the address.
Does anyone have any additional questions or prepared to perhaps advance a motion on the item?
So we're not asking them to move the green leaf then?
Yeah.
Okay. And I actually don't have a problem with it. As is was fine, except for I do not like it spelled out south on there. That's not the norm anyway. Okay.
Anyone like to take a stab at this?
Can we summarize?
Todd? Okay.
I have a question, if I may. If we increased the address 222 South, which we can do, that's not going to be a problem for us, and would that solve that concern that you have in terms of the address?
In terms of making the letter height of 222 larger?
Yes,
And leaving green leaf the same size?
yes.
Honestly, I don't know what everybody feels like, but I'm okay with it. Most of the signs do not have the name of the street on them anyway. So if it's not as legible as the address number itself, I don't have a problem with it. There's a sign just one complex over that has green leaf, S green leaf underneath the number, and it's much tinier than this on the side of the sign. Then they don't have to make a lot of modifications to it.
Sorry.
So I think you could use the model motion, except when you got to item number 2, you'd have to modify that to read minor sign exception to allow the letter heights on tenant panels to be less than the 6-inch requirement, but no smaller than 4 inches. And I think that then requires everything in the top to be at least 6 inches.
Yeah, but what happens to the lettering on green leaf on the side? That doesn't affect that?
Doesn't affect that. You don't give any relief to that.
Okay.
But I guess for staff, where is it at now? It's not at 6 inches.
No, it's not. Why don't you just approve it based upon the drawing here and then the sketch here, and then just change what parts you want to. So green leaf would be the size that's reflected here. The 222 would be modified to be at least in the S, a minimum of 6 inches in height and larger if possible, or however you wanted to phrase it. And everything else remains the same.
That goes into number 2, right?
Yes.
And if this helps, I have my laptop with me where I could, in just a couple of minutes, show you how it would look with those changes, so that we can see it, if that helps.
That would be great. If you
Would you like that?
I mean, when you say a couple of minutes, is that 5 or 10?
No, no more than 3
Well, I'll tell you
minutes.
what, while you're working on that, we can move on to the next agenda item. And then
Okay.
And then we'll bring that back up.
Sounds
Okay.
Okay. We'll move along to the next item on the agenda, which is a public hearing for a petition of the Village of Gurnee to amend Article 2.1, the definition of general terms of the Gurnee zoning ordinance. Does staff like to offer a report?
So staff has been receiving an increasing number of requests from owners of beauty and hair salons who wish to offer microblading and lip blushing as an ancillary service. Microblading is a semi-permanent technique for enhancing the appearance of eyebrows in which pigment is scratched into the skin in fine, short strokes resembling hair, using a hand tool with a blade formed of tiny needles, while lip blushing is a semi-permanent tattoo that enhances the color and shape of lips and gives the impression of more fullness by depositing color ink into lips along lip lines. Both of these processes involve the use of semi-permanent ink in makeup applications, and as such are a form of tattooing. Under Gurnee zoning ordinance, they are classified as a body modification establishment, as our definition is as follows: a business that offers tattooing services, body piercing, and/or non-medical body modification. Body modification establishment does not include an establishment that offers ear piercing as an ancillary service. Staff is proposing to add ancillary microblading and lip blushing as an exemption similar to ancillary ear piercing. Without this exemption, any business that would like to provide these ancillary services would need to obtain a special use permit and comply with the village's licensing requirements, which include a $1,000 yearly fee, as well as meeting separation requirements from other body modification establishments, adult entertainment establishments, and establishments with a liquor license. Businesses would still be required to secure licensing from the Illinois Department of Public Health and have OSHA bloodborne pathogen certification. Staff is proposing amendment because both microblading and lip blushing uses semi-permanent and not permanent ink, and because these services are limited as ancillary uses. The proposed language includes the addition of microblading and lip blushing as an exemption to the definition of body modification and establishment, and creates new definitions for microblading and lip blushing as follows. Body modification tattooing establishment would now be defined as a business that offers tattooing services, body piercing, and/or non-medical body modification, except establishments that offer microblading, lip blushing, and/or ear piercing as an ancillary service. And then the addition of a definition for lip blushing, which would be a semi-permanent tattoo that can enhance the color and shape of lips and give the impression of more fullness by depositing color ink into lip along lip lines. And then a definition of microblading, that would be a semi-permanent technique for enhancing the appearance of eyebrows in which pigment is scratched into the skin in fine short strokes resembling hair, using a hand tool with a blade formed of tiny needles. There is also definitions of all of body modification in the municipal code, and those would be amended according to whatever the Planning and Zoning Board does this evening.
All right. Thank you very much. As this is a public hearing, we need to open the floor to the public for public testimony. Seeing that it doesn't appear that anyone from the public is here, I will go ahead and close the floor to the public, and I'll open to anyone up here who has any additional questions, comments regarding the request of the village. Am I right?
Quick question.
Yes.
You mentioned that the same type of licensing from the Illinois Department of Public Health will be needed. This is great. How about equipment? Do you know if equipment requirements would be any different from tattooing?
I don't know how lip blushing is conducted. I know that the microblading does use needles similar to tattooing, so it would be regulated in the same manner, but I don't know specific, tools that they use.
I just wondered if they do need additional ones. Will they require permits or modifications to their?
Oh, no, they would,
Probably not, right?
basically, I don't think there's any structural or any interior modifications that are needed for a building that does tattooing. They would need to have the disposal of the needles, but that's, regulated by the state and OSHA, so I don't think that that would be anything that would be unique that we would have to, concern ourselves in regard to a zoning regulations.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have any questions, comments?
So my understanding is that tattoo shops cannot do this, right? Is what we're proposing also.
Tattoo shops, if they get a license, they can do this. If a tattoo shop wants to do this, they're already licensed because they need to be licensed. If a hair salon or a beauty salon wanted to do this, currently they would be defined because they're doing this as a tattooing or a body modification, and they would have to get the full tattooing special use permit, the full licensing. And so we're talking about if we make this exception to the definition of what a body modification establishment is, and it accepts out ancillary lip blushing and microblading, then they would no longer need to do that. But a tattoo company or business is doing it as a principal business, so they would have to go through that licensing no matter what. And if they did, then they could do this, obviously, because they're already licensed to do full tattooing.
Because I was just reading here, except the establishments that offer microblading. You have the definition as tattooing establishment, a business that offers tattoo service, body piercing, non-medical body modification, except establishments that offer microblading. So can
As
they
an
offer-
ancillary service.
Oh, as an okay, I got you. That's all right. Cool.
Terrific. Any additional questions or comments? If there's none, then it's time to perhaps advance a motion as a recommendation to the village board.
Okay, I can. Motion to forward a favorable recommendation on the petition of the Village of Gurnee to amend Article 2.1 definition of general terms as follows. Body modification.
I think you can just refer to, it's already been read into
Okay.
the record, so those
Sure.
definitions have already been read in.
As the definitions have already been read into the record then.
Terrific. We have a motion by Mr. Campbell. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Paff. Any additional comments, questions? Can I have roll call, please?
Campbell,
Aye.
Aye.
Cap,
Aye.
Ware,
Aye.
Great, motion carries. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, sir, are you ready? Yes. Can I approach? Is there a way,
Is there a way to put it up there?
is there a way to maybe plug in,
Yeah.
perhaps?
What? Okay.
I think you can approach, we'll give you the microphone though.
Okay.
So here you see the change with 222 south. want to see it.
Mr. Campbell?
It's 6 inches?
That would be 8 inches. Yes, so we're going a little bigger now.
Beautiful.
So it's proportional.
Hold the microphone up so I can hear you.
Yeah, it's 8, now it's going to be 8 inches, so it's proportional.
Yes, so that the public knows.
Correct.
The Greenleaf Street, what's that still, is that still in?
The green, G is in 6 inches and the rest is 4. And I believe, is it, S is also 6
Essen
inches.
Street? Thank you. So Brian, how might we incorporate that new revision into the record?
Yeah, I think all you have to do is the template, just modify item number 2, which is, it could read, minor sign exception to allow the letter height on tenant panels to be less than 6 inches, but no less than 4 inches. That would satisfy that. And then I guess you can also add that the address will be in conditioned that the address be 8 inches or greater.
8 inches or greater? We were going to do 6 inches or greater,
Well,
but
he just
you already
said
did it.
Yeah, that 222 was 8.
I like that.
Yeah, it's visible, more visible with an 8, yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Except he didn't increase.
The Greenleaf Street was still 6 for the primary letters and 4 for the...
Yes, yes. Yeah. Well, I think we get back to Tracy as shown in the revised exhibit. And so after, that will be, I think, just reference the revised exhibit and then make sure you email that so that it's part of the record.
Well, that didn't, the street name didn't get changed at all, so we don't need to, even call that out, do we?
No, but as long as we've taken the time, to have that presentation, just to remove any doubt as to how the sign's gonna look.
The street name is still deficient for the code because it goes down to 4-inch letters. So if it's not included as one of the tenant panel reliefs, you would need to call it out individually in addition to the tenant panels.
And the street name. Okay.
What? Can you say that, again, please?
The street name, Greenleaf, still has 4-inch letters in it. So in addition to the relief being granted for the tenant panels, going from 6 down to 4, we would also want to mention that the street name is also being granted permission to go from 6 inches down to 4 inches.
Okay.
Huh, even though it currently is.
Currently not.
Oh, it's currently not.
Greenleaf, the G
Oh.
and the S are 6 inches, the rest of the letters are 4.
I'll try.
Floor is yours.
Okay, I'd like to forward, oh, no, we approved this, right?
Correct.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the petition of Image 360 South Elgin for the following. 1, a minor sign exception to allow the number of tenant panels for a freestanding multi-tenant sign to be increased from 4 to 7 per face. 2, a minor sign exception to allow the letter height on the tenant panels and the street name to be less than the 6-inch requirement, but no less than 4 inches. The address number is to be at least 8 inches or larger if possible. And number 3, a minor sign exception to allow a freestanding multi-tenant sign to be set back 6 feet from the back of the curb and 8 feet from the property line.
We have a motion Mr. Paff, do we have a second? A second by Mr. Campbell. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Edwin. Roll call, please.
Campbell. Aye. Nortop.
Aye.
Cap.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Motion carries. Good luck with your project, sir.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to discuss the next meeting date, December 20th. Do we have business on the 20th?
We do not have anything currently, but we might in the future.
Stay tuned.
Yep.
Okay. Terrific. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Open the floor to the public for any items that were not on tonight's agenda. I can see they're all storming the mic, so I will close the floor to the public. And the last item is adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion,
Second.
and there is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.